Okay. I present to you tonight an algorithm I have developed called the harmonic pattern function. This function was developed to provide a mathematical foundation for the systematic study of combined sound and visual synthesis. It is a key element in signal processing, underlies many physical systems, and as I hope to convince you, serves as a highly effective algorithm for generative art. To begin, we start with a question. Can we create visuals in a similar manner that we create sounds? We know that any periodic sound can be constructed from a sum of sine waves. Is it also possible that any curve can be produced from a sum of circles? Well, perhaps. We can start with compound circular motion. Here we attach to a rotating point the center of rotation of another rotating point, and so on. A curve can be drawn with a point on the last circle. This is the basis of the harmonic pattern function. Before discussing it, I would like to present a historical perspective. The ancient Pythagoreans believed that at the deepest level, reality is mathematical in nature. The monad was ascribed to unity and the totality of all beings. It was represented by a point surrounded by a single circle. From the monad came the dyad, which was associated with otherness in plurality. The triad represented harmony. This Pythagorean thought became more precise when around 300 BC, Euclid published his treatise on geometry elements. From a small set of 5 postulates, he systematically developed many deep mathematical results. The first 3 postulates state the rules for drawing lines and circles from which other constructions can be made. Also in the 3rd century BC lived the ancient Greek geometer Apollonius of Perga. He is known for having developed the theory of epicyclical motion to describe the motion of planetary orbits as observed from the Earth. Apollonius of Perga is perhaps most well known for his systematic study of conic sections, such as the ellipse, the parabola, and the hyperbola. The interesting aspect of conic sections is that they express the notion of geometric continuity, whereby several curves can be expressed as instances of a single shape. This notion of geometric continuity can be traced to the German philosopher Nicholas of Cusa. He defines the maximum as that than which there can be nothing greater. It represents a unity of both sameness and difference. Everything else is a contraction or plurality of the maximum. Cusa also expresses the maximum in geometric terms. As a first example, one can say that a maximally straight line is minimally curved. If we zoom in enough to any curve, here a circle, then eventually we reach a straight line. The second example involves resolution. In our digital era, we are familiar with discrete representations such as samples in pixels and PechaKucha slides. Given a high enough resolution of some digitally sampled object, we will perceive it as continuous. Here we see how as we add more sides to a regular polygon, we approach an ideal maximal circle. One man influenced by the theory of conic sections in Cusa's notion of the maximum was Johannes Kepler. In his work, Astronomia Nova, he first proposed that the orbits of planets around the sun are ellipses rather than circles. The harmonic pattern function can be described intuitively as a sum of circular motions divided by a second sum of circular motions. The output is a sequence of points in 2 dimensions. Originally, I called it the orbit equation, as it can naturally describe both epicyclic curves and conic sections. However, it can describe much more. Here are some examples of some of the more simple canonical curves that it can produce. On the top row, we have rose curves, regular polygons, and so-called botanic curves. The middle row shows the conic sections, and on the bottom are some examples of harmonographic curves. By adding only a few more harmonics, we can produce some highly complex curves. The patterns develop texture in addition to an overall shape. By utilizing a special type of high-frequency harmonic, the function can produce entire colonies of shapes, as shown in the rightmost figures. With careful selection of parameters, the function can produce curves that are strikingly organic in nature. We see curves that look like plant parts, protein structures, and even insects complete with limbs, torsos, and heads. Here's an entire digital painting made from one curve. The circular shapes you see are not formed by the curve directly, but rather emerge from intersections of lines. I made this by varying only a few parameters of the function until I found a result that struck me. I do not know how to explain this result mathematically, although I know that it is deeply mathematical. Interestingly, the harmonic pattern function can also produce textures by mapping the output points onto colors. The positions of the points are determined according to a Z-shaped pattern, like the flow of letters from a typewriter or the motion of an electron gun in a CRT monitor. By adding a third dimension, we can also add a whole new dimension to the experience of these patterns. We can start to feel immersed in them. Here we have two-dimensional textures whose color values have been mapped into a height in the third dimension. We can elevate this immersive aspect by instead generating three-dimensional fields in plotting surfaces where its values are 0. Now we are approaching something akin to world making. However, we can delegate the details of making to mathematics in the computer and become instead world selectors and world observers. To end, I leave you with some Kuzin thoughts. To understand the maximum, we must leave behind the things which, together with their material associations, are attained through the senses, through the imagination, or through reason, so that we may arrive at the most simple and most abstract understanding where all things are one, where a line is a triangle, a circle, and a sphere, where oneness is threeness, where accident is substance, where body is mind, where motion is rest.